I tend to be shallow when it comes to buying electronic things. I like them to look good and feel good, and design matters a huge amount. But what happens when the design matters more than the function? When something looks incredible, but then using it, you're like, ugh. That can become a real big issue. And it's something that we've seen in the past with some tech giants, and something I think we're starting to see again with one of the largest players in the automotive and the tech space. I think Tesla has a design problem. So before anybody just gets enraging for dare saying anything critical of Tesla, it's not really a video that's critical of Tesla at all. In fact, it's a lot of praise towards Tesla, but there are things I think that need to be improved, need to be changed. So meet Franz van Holtzhausen, who I'm probably just going to call Franz throughout the rest of this video. He is chief designer at Tesla and is largely credited with pretty much everything that we've seen in modern Tesla vehicles. So back in 2008, he joined Tesla, and since then has designed the S, the X, the 3, the Y, the Semi, the Cybertruck, and the absolutely stunning second-gen Roadster. And it makes sense that Tesla would trust Franz with this task. He's got the pedigree behind it. Before joining Tesla, he worked at automotive giants, VW, GM, Mazda, working on a bunch of prototypes and production vehicles. This dude knows what he is doing and knows how to do it very well. So whether or not you love Tesla or you don't, I don't think it's up for much of a debate that a larger reason for their monumental success is because the car's design has been different from anything that came before it. When it was released in 2012, the Model S was the first time we got a great looking economical green vehicle. So we went from like this being the green standard to this, and it was a giant deal. EVs didn't have to look like golf carts with small range and no performance. Elon Musk, Franz van Holtzhausen, and Tesla changed that. But as time has gone on, it seems that the eye for design at Tesla is starting to take over. And it looks like we might be reaching the point where form is starting to trump function. And not in trivial ways, but in sort of fundamental parts of their vehicles. And I know, I get it, design is as subjective as anything like could be. What you might think looks great might look horrible to me, and vice versa, and that's okay. So like the prime example is clearly the Cybertruck. This is Tesla's most polarizing design. Some people like it, and some people just straight up hate it. But that seems to almost be the point of this design. Tesla clearly wasn't trying to make a truck that everyone would think is absolutely beautiful. They had something else in mind, and I think that's fine. Whether the design leads to more or fewer sales, decision Tesla will have to deal with one way or another. But what I'm really talking about here is design choices that might seem better, but in real world use just aren't. I know everybody's gonna jump in and be like, the yoke, he's talking about the yoke. I'll get to the yoke. But what I'm talking about right now is the lack of instrument stocks, and that's true in the S and the X. The fact that I have to use a touchscreen to put this car in different drive modes, I don't want to say silly, but I think at the very best case is cumbersome. And because there are no stocks, that means I have to use buttons on the yoke. And it's simply not better than using turn signals on a stock like every other car has. Now, muscle memory, you might get used to it, but that doesn't actually make it a better solution. And I think this is a prime example of an idea that seems like incredible design on paper. From Tesla's perspective, the car is smart enough not to need stocks. And in theory, that is true, but in practice, it's not always the case. And it makes driving the car sometimes more cumbersome and difficult. And while it's okay, so that might be a more user-facing decision, Tesla's recently made other design choices in the name of manufacturing that I think has objectively made the car worse. So when I first got my Model 3 a few years ago, there was radar built in. This would allow the car to better see the world around it, and when you're using autopilot, it was relatively reliable. But in the name of manufacturing efficiency, Tesla removed radar from their cars, instead opting to only use the camera-based systems. And if you follow Tesla, you know they are pushing hard for their cars to be self-driving. We've talked about it a lot. Tesla's pushing the autonomy of their cars. And at times, their self-driving can be incredible. At other times, it can often be dangerous. But the vision system that is running the full self-driving beta is at the same time running the regular autopilot. And since the switch from radar, a lot of drivers have been reporting phantom braking. means a car will slam on the brakes for no reason, thinking it saw a hazard on the road. And the immediate response to that is, well, you should just hit the accelerator. And there's a big cadre of people that are immediately making excuses for what Tesla is doing. Now, you can love a company and still be critical. And you can love a company and think there's room for improvement. And there's definitely an area where I think there is room for improvement. Continuing discussion on autopilot. Top speed of autopilot is limited to 85 miles per hour, which wasn't the case when they were still using radar. Tesla's going to remove ultrasonic sensors in favor of cameras as well, all in the name of a simpler design that's probably easier and cheaper to manufacture. These are just a few examples, but Tesla is on a path that is making its products harder to use, I think in a lot of ways rather than easier. And Tesla is not the first company we've seen this problem occur in the tech industry. Remember this bald-headed beauty? It's Jony Ive. He was the chief design officer of Apple from 1997 to 2019, and in that time, Apple revolutionized the world with its products. The iMac, MacBook, iPod, iPhone, iPad, I mean, the list of things goes on and on. I don't think it's a stretch to say if Apple didn't have design expertise of Jony Ive, a lot of their products might have failed. Much like we're seeing with Tesla, there came a point, though, where design at Apple seemed to take over and function took a backseat. The most prime example of this was the 2015 MacBook Pro. Aesthetically, it was beautiful. It was thin, it was light, minimal. When you think of every Apple product, it hit sort of on point. That is, until you started to, use it. Like famously, the ultra-thin butterfly keyboard was a disaster, failing for a ton of people. So much so that Apple was actually forced to fix these keyboards for free. And then there's this guy, the Touch Bar. And again, design-wise and in theory, it should have been a really innovative idea that gave you function rows, more utility. In reality, it was infuriating to not have function keys. And removing every port and replacing them with the USB-C made the dongle life a nightmare. And all these issues were created simply because design took over function in one way or another, and it left the product and consumer experience worse for it. I think just like Apple, Tesla seems to be making similar decisions. But unlike Apple, this issue might not all be on Franz von Holzhausen's shoulders. He is, of course, the head designer at Tesla, but it might not be his fault that the cars are taking this direction. So when Elon Musk took the stage to release the updates to the Model S, he gave us a big insight into what very well may be the issue for Tesla. He said, and I quote, "I think generally all input is error. If you want to do something that the car could have done already, that should be taken care of. The software should just do it." So that one statement says it all, really. Input is error in the eyes of Tesla, or at the very least, in the eyes of Elon Musk. And the idea is clearly coming out in Franz's design. Whether that's from Musk's direction or Franz's freedom to design what he thinks is best, it's just like what happened with Apple. There's a design philosophy at work that seems to trump user input and satisfaction. But I don't think all hope is lost at all. In fact, there are some hints that Tesla's realized the issue as making a shift for the better before it becomes a huge problem. So remember that yoke steering wheel. How could you forget the yoke steering wheel? Tesla reverse course is now giving buyers of the S or an X the option to choose a yoke or a regular steering wheel and offer a retrofit for those that already have the yoke. This is after months and months of customers saying they don't like the yoke or don't think it's better than traditional wheel. Tesla, to its credit, is now giving users a choice. And it might seem like a small decision, but I think it is a big admission. When Musk revealed the yoke on stage, he praised it as significantly better than a steering wheel. Tesla going back on that decision, I think, shows that design doesn't always win. And it does seem like Tesla knows it. We're starting to see really early hardware for Model S and Model X's start to make their way to people. And there was a lot of hope Tesla was going to do some very drastic things. So first, you've got computers that are going to be more capable eventually and hopefully for full self-driving. But also they're reversing some decisions. We've got the new Phoenix radar in here as well. It supposedly is a crazy advanced version of radar, but we don't really know what it's going to do since Tesla officially hasn't acknowledged their hardware for really exists yet, at least as of this filming. Similar to Apple, the latest MacBooks, there's no touch bar. They've got a better keyboard. They got ports. Apple left the design over function paradigm, made a product that customers love to use. And like with Apple, these changes only come after customers demanded them. And for Tesla, the input is error mindset is leading to design that doesn't make sense to the customers, at least not yet. So for the consumers, I think it's important to make your opinions be heard. The latest decision by Tesla gave me hope there's a possibility that designs in the future will be more customer focused. It also made me think that Tesla is actually listening to their customers, which is amazing and awesome to hear. Things you don't often see happening in these large tech companies. I think Tesla's designs are aesthetically beautiful. Certainly they are polarizing. And I think the admission of giving users the option to pick, do they want the function form, do they want the yoke or not, is a huge step in the right direction. Give customers the option to choose what they want. Do you want a steering wheel? Do you want a yoke? Do you want stocks? Do you not want stocks? I know that leads to complications in manufacturing, but letting users make the decision on what they want instead of being told what they should want is a huge step for Tesla. And also, honestly, I'm more optimistic now than I was a few years ago that Tesla is actually listening.